Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Dealing with Issues or Talking About Issues with ChildLine. I am Aaron George. I'm an outreach officer with ChildLine for the last 6 years, and I will be facilitating the little dissemination of information this morning. So, today we're going to have a conversation, or today we're going to talk a little bit about study tips and time management. And as a student myself, it can be very challenging sometimes to manage the demands of life, manage the demands of school, manage personal wants, and be able to achieve all the goals or everything that you set out to achieve. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about some things that you could possibly do to help you manage your time and some tips that you could use, because we have a lot of children. Even though schools are closed, it is still important for you all to be abreast of your schoolwork, to know what's happening, keeping with the maths, keeping with the English, the science, the bio, the whatever subjects you all are doing. And of course, it can be very stressful because you now have to adjust to working at home. When you're accustomed in a classroom, you'd usually have a lot of teachers present or persons there to help you all out with the studying process, and now you may have to rely on your parents or your siblings. So we just want to give you a few tips or give you a few ideas as to some things that you can do that will make studying a little easier for you. So let's jump straight in on the topic. Before we jump into study skills and stuff though, let's talk a little bit about stress. What is stress? Stress is a natural response to events or situations that make you feel uncomfortable. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable could result in stress. It could be a hot day. It could be a teacher telling you that put away your books. You have an exam to do now. It could be that you did bad in an exam and you're feeling a bit frustrated. There are many things that could possibly result in the stress levels that you might be experiencing, but you could be comforted in the fact that you're not the only one that's stressed. I feel confident that there's no one on the face of this earth who could say they've never ever been stressed out before. And it's good to know that stress could be managed in various ways. We have different types of coping strategies. Some may be adaptive, some will be maladaptive, which simply means that they're good coping strategies or they may be bad coping strategies. So in terms of exams, stress doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Usually when we hear stress, you usually think something negative, but stress can be good. There are many times where stress has helped us out in situations. Let me give you an example. If you've ever been in a race before, when you're at the starting line and they say on your mark, get set, and you're ready to run down the road, your heart is going to be pumping. You're going to be feeling a bit nervous. You might be feeling anxious, or you might be feeling frustrated. You might be having 1,000 thoughts running through your mind, and you will be experiencing stress. However, in that situation, stress is good because the anxiety that you're experiencing, that heart racing, is actually going to help you to run a little faster. It'll help you to get to your goal or get to the finish line. So in a similar way, when you feel anxious about stress associated with exams, it can be very beneficial for you in the sense that you have a lot of planning, you have a lot of thinking, you have a lot of writing to do. And when you feel stressed, or if you're able to manage your stress, or you have the right amount of stress, it'll actually help you to write a little faster, think a little quicker. Your thoughts may flow a little smoother. So there's good stress and there's bad stress. Good stress, also known as eustress, is basically when you're focused, when you're feeling attentive, when you have an emotional balance, and you're engaging in a lot of rational thinking. However, when you're experiencing bad stress, that's something known as distress, which is where you're not able to, your attention is impaired. You have impaired selectivity in terms of what you're able to focus on or what you're not able to focus on. You might feel overly excited, which could be distracting, or you could feel extremely bored, which wouldn't motivate you enough. So you want to have the right amount of stress in order to achieve the best study practices, so to speak. So now we're going to have a little chat about signs that you're going to get stressed out. If you notice that you're getting anxiety attacks, or you have reduced focus, maybe you're feeling confused, you're reading the same paragraph over and over and over, and it still, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be registering. All of those things could contribute to you deciding, you know what, maybe I don't want to do any work anymore. I'm going to go watch TV, or I'm going to go play football. But it's okay to take a break when you start noticing that you're feeling anxious about the schoolwork or whatever task you have at hand, and regroup, engage in some positive self-talk until you're able to get back to the task that you have at hand. Sometimes when you're feeling stressed out, you might start getting aggressive. You may have a loss of appetite. Your sleeping patterns may change, so you may be up very late at night, or you may be sleeping in a lot, feeling extremely fatigued or feeling very tired. So all of those things are possibilities when you're getting stressed out. So you want to look out for the signs. You don't want to be too stressed out when you have to study, because you're not going to be able to retain as much information you would be able to. So studying, at the end of the day, is an essential part of being a successful student. And yes, it is boring sometimes. It may seem exhausting. It may be time consuming and stressful and draining, but it's the only way for you to really be able to get the information in your mind. I remember in secondary school, my friends and I, we would make jokes about possibly blending up the book and swallowing it, or hitting our heads on the book and seeing if the information would get inside. And to be honest, that isn't going to work. The only way we're going to be able to understand the content or get the content is if we actually start engaging with the content, and the more we do it, the better we'll get at it. So studying has a lot to do with being persistent or being focused on what you aim to achieve. So there are two critical aspects of studying. The first one is self-care, and the second part is efficient study skills. Both of them must work together in order for you to achieve the desired end results. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to study properly. If you're only taking care of yourself and you're not doing any work, or you're not studying efficiently, you're not going to be able to know the content to be able to pass the exams or get the grade that you're desiring. So in terms of self-care, let's talk a bit about what are some of the basic things that you want to do. When you wake up on a morning, you want to start your day with a relaxing ritual. Allow yourself to feel some level of peace, some level of calmness, and make sure that you probably meditate. If you're into praying, or you're a religious person, say a prayer, meditation, whatever you're into, something that will relax you or put you in a positive frame of mind to face the rest of your day. You also want to ensure that your diet is balanced. What does it really mean to have a balanced diet? It can be quite difficult to achieve, maybe even costly, but you want to at least allow yourself to have an intake of the positive things that will be contributing for studying. For example, you want to have a lot of water as opposed to soft drink. You want to ensure that you are not starving yourself when you are trying to do work or when you're hungry, because there are many theorists that say, and of course from experience, if you're hungry, you're not going to be able to focus on anything at all. Your belly is going grumble, grumble, grumble. You're going to be a bit frustrated, or you might actually be distracted. And there are many times I've tried studying or doing work when I was hungry. Didn't really work out that great. So ensuring that you have something to eat, something that you have on your stomach, that's a good place to start. And you also want to stimulate your circulatory system for a healthy flow of blood to the brain and to just your organs, just the different parts of your body, so that you feel comfortable enough to be able to accomplish your task. Sleeping, another big part of self-care associated with studying, and we will talk about things that you want to avoid when it comes to studying, and cramming will be one of those things, but we'll get there. For now, you want to make sure that you sleep well, because sleep sleep deprivation can be an even bigger problem for persons when it comes to having to focus or do mental activity or cognitive task. So always ensure that you get enough sleep, at least 8 hours. I mean, yes, sometimes life demands. We may have to probably get, or probably listening, take about 6 hours. Sometimes we may get 5, sometimes we may get 10 if we're lucky, but as much as possible, please try your best to sleep. Get enough rest, because it will also help when you start studying or when you start engaging with the material. Sleep is going to help those neural connections become a little more solidified in the brain. Yeah. So efficient studying. Actually, before we go on to the efficient studying, I'll add another one. Let's include a little exercise there as it relates to self-care. It's really important for you to exercise, because exercise is a really positive way for you to relieve the stress that you're experiencing. And once you're able to relieve that stress, it puts you in a positive place or a positive frame of mind where you're able to actually focus on the work that you have at hand. Yeah, so taking a little exercise, and then when you exercise you look good, and when you look good you feel good, and when you feel good you might want to study. Your brain is all excited, it will want the information. Yeah, so mandatory things. Let's talk about efficient studying now, because that's really what we need to do. We need to be able to understand how exactly am I going to use the work or use the content to be able to maximize my results. And the thing is, it is a reality that at the end of the day, some persons could take 2 hours to complete task A, when maybe if you did it a little differently, you could probably spend 1 hour doing the task, and that will leave you with another hour to possibly get other content in. You want to make efficient use of your time, essentially. Yeah. So first things first, you want to set the groundwork. You want to know what your objectives are before you actually sit down to study. Ask yourself, okay, what do I want to accomplish? What's my plan? Why am I studying? Is it that I'm studying just because I need to keep up with schoolwork? Is it that I'm studying because I have an exam that's coming up and it's really, really important and I need to be focused? Why? Why am I studying? You focus on it. So, knowing your objectives, that's thing number one. And it's a really good idea for you to write down your objectives as well, because when you write down your objective, and you stick it up on a wall in front of you, it will be a constant reminder as to what are some of the things that you ask yourself to set out. Ask yourself what you wanted to accomplish during the day. And once you would have noticed, okay, well, I'm straying from some of the activities, that list will help you in terms of getting back on track as to what you really need to do, why you're doing the things that you're currently doing. You also want to plan your study time. Studying sometimes can be a bit difficult, depending if you're working or if you're just a student. On the whole, to be honest, I mean, studying can be exhausting, but you really want to plan your study time. If possible, having a structure or having a routine to your study time will help you be able to put a method to the madness, so to speak, when it comes to your day. You'd know, okay, so I get up, I got into the groove of this, maybe I had a relaxing ritual, I had breakfast, I took a shower, I brushed my teeth, and all of that is part of self-care, because even though you're home studying, you don't want to be tasting anything strange in your mouth because you got up and you just didn't brush your teeth this morning. I know you still want to engage in those positive self-care behaviors while you're studying, because yeah, it just feels better. Yeah, so good. So plan your study time, whether it's 2 hours, maybe you're going to study for 2 hours, somewhere between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. So it could either be between 5 and 7, it could be between it could be between 6 and 8. Who knows? However, you get to decide. Allow yourself that level of flexibility when you're studying, and you want to create a space to study. And all of this is just to kind of set up this is like the first things first, because if you don't have a space to study, once you start studying in other places, like some people may study on their bed, some people may study in their living room, and depending on the size of your home or the resources that you have available, you may not be able to create a space to study. But if possible, and it doesn't have to be anything too fancy, it could just be like a little table, a chair, a desk, something with a stool, at least a place where you could put your books and your stationery in one place. Because sometimes one of the hardest parts about studying is just finding the things. And you know what? When you're able to find the TV remote and you're able to find the PS4 control and you know exactly where the fridge is and you definitely could find your bed and your pillow and you know where your phone is, these things are going to act as distractors. So create a space so that you could study, so that when you're sitting there, your brain, you're teaching your brain to function a particular way when it is in this space. You're teaching your brain the concept of time and place. Just for example, when you go into a library, you may automatically start speaking in hushed tones, or you'll start whispering, because your brain understands the concept. You taught your brain time and place when it comes to the library. You want to have that at home as well, for whatever designated area you have to do your work. So have all of your material, your books, pens, pencils, erasers, crayons. You want to have everything there so that you don't have to distract yourself and get up often while you are studying. That could take away from the work that you're actually doing. And you want to also know your learning style. What do I mean by knowing your learning style? What is the method that allows information to sit in your brain much more comfortably than other persons? And I'll give you an example. In school, teachers would read a lot of paragraphs for us sometimes. And for me, personally speaking, listening, hearing, the auditory aspect of learning can be quite challenging sometimes. I'm very visual with things. So once people tell me things, I start making notes. And once I know that I start making those notes, I'm kinesthetic as well, because I like that movement. I like to write because it makes me feel like if it's fully in my brain. When I just hear it, I feel like if it's not there, and at any moment the breeze could blow and totally steal the information that I spend so long trying to learn. So you have to figure out, is it that I'm good? Is it that I move? When I'm moving, I learn well? Is it that I could sit down and simply just read the book? Because some people, they read a book and they remember everything, and I am mind blown. I am mind blown, because how did you do that? How did you do that? So knowing how you learn, or knowing your learning style, is really going to be helpful, because once you practice or you use the way that you learn when you're studying, it's more efficient. You get more done in a shorter period of time. Yeah, that's essentially what you want to accomplish. Now, it's also a really good idea to create a study schedule when you are about to do work. So just as you want to have your study time, or you want to have your study plan, you also want to have a study schedule. So how do we go about making a study schedule? Because the thing is, many people, I've had sessions before where we've asked students, we've given them a template, and we asked them, create a study timetable based on the subjects that you're doing. And what you find is sometimes students only study the subjects that they like, and the subjects that they don't like, the subjects that actually need the assistance, it suffers. So if they don't like math, they would study math 4 times for the week, and they will study English once for the week, if so much. Yeah. So it's about creating a balance. So how could we go about creating a proper study schedule? Number 1, you want to make a list of all the subjects that you're doing. Once you have a list of all the subjects that you're doing, it'll put things into perspective for you. Okay, so I'm doing 5 subjects, so I'm doing 8 subjects, and that means that this is how long it's going to take me, or these are the number of topics that I have to account for. So all of the topics that you are there, all of them that you have, they need to be addressed, because those are one of your subjects, right? And it doesn't matter if you like the subject or not. However, what you will do is that you're going to rank the subject based on the areas that you feel most competent. So let's say you have 5 subjects. So you're doing math, English, science, let's say you're doing geography and Spanish. You're going to rank them according to how good you think you are. So if you know, okay, I'm really good in Spanish, so that's number 1. Then I'm good in geography, then English. Oh, no, not English for me at all, but just say, then English, or then math, and then whatever. Once you rank them, once you rank them, it gives you an idea as to where you fall, and it's about introspection as well. It's about you being able to understand or get an idea as to, okay, this is where I'm at in terms of competency as it relates to the subject. You can even probably rate it according to percentage. So let's say you know you've covered 100% of the syllabus so far. You can say, I probably know 20% of the syllabus as it relates to English. I know 50% as it relates to math. I know everything in Spanish, so that's 97%. So it tells you, it informs you what areas would probably require more attention than other. And yes, I'm seeing a comment here from Darren saying the time of day as well is going to be very important, because you're going to be more receptive to information if it's in the day or if you're a night person. So yes, and it's about learning yourself. A big part about studying is about knowing who you are as a person and when things work for you. Some of us know that on a morning, we ain't gonna do no work. Don't tell me anything too tedious, because on a morning I'm not a morning person. But other people, they wake up and the first thing they want to do as soon as they wake up is get all the work done and get all the difficult stuff done, because that might be a little more that might be the time that their brain is working at its peak. Yeah, so learning yourself is very, very important. So once you've ranked the subjects according to how you know them, you also want to consider the weight of the subjects. Yes, once you have the weight of the subjects, it will teach you or inform you as to, okay, even though I'm 50% through the syllabus in mathematics, I still have a lot of content to cover to learn the other 50%, because math is very heavy. So you have to understand which subject has more content, more reading, more material associated with it. You also want to ask yourself some important questions that will help put things into context for you. For example, how long would it take me to improve on my weaknesses? So let's say I'm not good at algebra, or I'm not good at trigonometry. How long do I think it's really going to take me to understand this concept? Because let's say I'm a visual person and I'm doing English literature. There's not much for me to really draw or see diagrams of the drawings. It's a lot of words, and it's a lot of reading that's going to be taking place. So you have to ask yourself, how long is it going to actually take me, knowing yourself, to accomplish what you need to accomplish? Once you've done doing that, you want to schedule things that are mandatory during the day. So you have your schedule. You know that, okay, today I have an assignment for English that I need to submit. Please ensure that when you're doing your study schedule, the activities for English, ensure that you reach that deadline. You want to meet your deadline when it comes to exams, or when it comes to SBs, or when it comes to anything in life, and that's part of time management. So please ensure that you do that, and allocate study times with short breaks in between. Another thing you want to do is you want to switch the subjects that you are studying. Some persons will study one subject for the entire day. What will happen is, let's say if you have two students, or let's say you have one student and they're doing two subjects, math and English, and they're doing extremely well in math. Because they're only doing the math, the English is going to eventually start suffering because of a concept such like use it or lose it. If you don't use the information that you have, you're going to lose it. It's going to disappear from your brain. Yeah, so you don't want that to be the case. Now, some tips for keeping the information inside of your brain. How are you going to do that? Number one, you want to rewrite the notes in your own words. Yes, sometimes teachers may give you a paragraph and they're talking about the atmosphere and the stratosphere and this cloud and cumulonimbus this, and all they're trying to tell you is that the sun is hot. And then you're sitting down there saying, oh, that's what that means. On the side of your book, please write, this means that the sun is hot. When you're paraphrasing the information, though, you want to ensure that you maintain the integrity of the information. So you don't want to write something different that changes what the sentence initially meant. You want to ensure that whatever was being communicated, that is maintained in your paraphrasing. Yeah, so don't be afraid to write notes, because one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves, I'll remember that, I'm going to remember that. Yes, I'll remember that. And then guess what? You don't remember. So try your best to remember by writing it down. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's thing number 2. Many students have been to schools, and I'm guilty of it when I was in secondary school as well, even primary school. The teacher will be talking and they're saying 1 + 1 is equal to 3. Everybody understand? Yes, miss. Yes, miss. And then they choke in their friend. How miss get 3? And 1 + 1 is 2? And they are afraid to raise their hand and say, miss, excuse, could you explain why 1 + 1 is equal to 3 and not equal to 2? Why wouldn't they do it? Because they're concerned that somebody on the other side of the class is going to say, but how you stupid, so you didn't know that, or how you done see, or how you this, or how, and the name calling begins, and the verbal bullying starts taking place. And I always have to remind students, please understand that now is the time to make all of the mistakes. Everything that you don't understand, you want to get that clarity right now. You don't want to wait until you're now going into the exam. And when you get into the exam, you see the questions that were being discussed in class, but you didn't take the time to ask because you were concerned that your friends would laugh at you. That's not what it's about. Now is the time to make all the mistakes. If you know that you have something to say, or that you have something to contribute, or you have something that you're unclear about, please raise your hand and ask. I always share a story about when I was in secondary school. I played fast and I decided, I'm going to do chemistry, and I'm going to do add maths, and I'm going to do physics, and be a scientist, whatever the case might be. And there was this thing called a titration in chemistry that we had to do, and this titration, I would never get it correct. And it's basically mixing chemicals, and there's another chemical called an indicator that you have to drop into the solution that changes it, and you take a measurement and whatnot and whatnot. When we go to class, everyone is green, my own is blue. Their one is black, my own is brown. Their own white, my own orange. Their own smoking, mine's ready to blow up. And I was always wondering, why am I not able to really get this thing? Like, I was just so discouraged, I was so demotivated. I was like, I don't care about this thing. However, when we started doing the practice booklets for the examinations, I noticed a pattern. On every single booklet, first question for 15 marks was a titration question. And I asked myself, I said, George, are you going to really allow this opportunity to go by? Are you going to waste 15 marks? 15 marks? That's a real plenty marks as far as I'm concerned. So what did I do? I raised my hand in class. I said, Miss, could you explain that to me one more time? I don't quite understand what it is. Blah, blah, blah. She explained. And then I said, Miss, I still don't understand. Please forgive me. Is it that this means this or this means that and whatnot? And she went on to explain more. And I said, Miss, sorry. Please forgive me. Is it possible for me to meet with you after class to probably get some additional questions so that I could practice this and whatnot, because I'm really not getting it. I'm concerned and da 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 da. I expressed all of my concerns, and she was very, very willing, and she was actually impressed. She felt proud that I took the time to take charge of my learning, that I knew that I didn't know something and that I was interested in getting it correct. So she felt proud about that. Anyway, fast forward to the exam. Went into the exam, and as soon as I opened the booklet, first question, 15 marks, a titration question. And I started to almost scream in the exam. I was like, ah! And then the invigilators came. They said, excuse me, sir, excuse me, sir. I said, sorry. I said, I'm sorry. But I was so excited that I remembered what to do, that I learned it, and that I wasn't giving away 15 marks. And when I got my results, I got a 1 in chemistry. So it is possible for you to get the results that you want. You're just going to have to work at it. Cool? What else? You also want to review your notes on the day that you get them, or you want to review them before you go to bed. Why? You want to, the more you repeat it, is the more connected the neurons in your brain will be, and the more likely you are to remember the information when you really want to remember the information. Now let me give you an example. This is how our brain works. Pretend we have like a really big backpack, a big bag, a book bag or a suitcase or something like that, and we know that we took a phone and a wallet and your clothes and your car keys, and you took everything and you threw it in that bag. You tossed everything in there. But you decided that I don't go into the bag very often to look for the thing. So I know it's in the bag, but I just don't know where in the bag it is. So when somebody calls you on the phone and say, hey, I want the car keys, and you tell them it's in the bag, and they ask you where in the bag, you're not able to give them that information. Why? Because you're not accustomed retrieving the information. It's the same thing with your brain. Sometimes we put the information inside of our brains, but we don't practice going into our brains and finding the information. So just because it's in the bag doesn't mean that we're going to be able to find it. And the thing is, if we're not able to find it, we're not going to be able to use it. You want to be able to find this information whenever you want the information. So you need to be focused on that. It's very important. And there's a comment. It's like listening to music. You hear the song over and over, you will eventually remember the lyrics. It's the same thing with your notes. If you sing it, if you tap it, if you rap it, if you whatever you do with it, you are going to remember it. I remember this 30 days of September, April, June. Those little things make the difference. They make the difference. So you could come up with those little things for yourself when you're studying, and you want to quiz yourself regularly to test your recall of the information. Reading regularly is also very important. So make sure you do that. Now, having the right mindset, really important. Again, full attention is necessary when you are studying. You want to sit and you want to be engaged with the content. Some people studying and they're looking at their phone, they're scrolling and then they're talking, hey, how you going? And then they're picking their nails, and then they're digging their nose, and they're doing all sorts of things while they're trying to actually get the work done. No, studying means that you're sitting down and you're spending quality time with the information. You're engaging on that level. And yes, sometimes you feel like if it is hurting, your back hurting, your head hurting, your chest hurting, your neck hurting, your hand hurting, that's part of the process. I tell myself that's the information working its way through my body to get to my brain. Yeah. So full attention is necessary, and switch between subjects to improve productivity. So if you're doing a session right now and you're feeling very frustrated, or you're doing a topic right now and you're frustrated by it, put a pause on it or finish that paragraph that you're doing, mark it off, and move on to another topic. And you also don't want to put heavy topics on the same day. You want to put a heavy topic or a topic that you're really good with and a topic that you're not so good with on the same day, so that way there's that balance where one day isn't too relaxed or the day isn't too stressful. Yeah. Like I said, set clear goals, and it's really, really, really important for you to have a positive mindset when you're studying. If you decide that okay, I have work to do and I'm going to go and sit down and study this work, but I real not about this life thing, I real know I go and fail, and I just always fail, and this and that and the other, you are already defeating yourself. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you tell yourself that I could do this, you are right, you could probably try. Not saying that if you tell yourself you could fly, that means you could fly like this, but within reality, if you tell yourself that you can't do something, you will find a way to make it happen. And if you tell yourself you can't do something, you're already putting a block against it, and you're being your own worst enemy. Please don't do that. Going with a positive mindset and tell yourself, yes, I'm going to be able to do this work. I might know it all right away, but I'm going to try. And sometimes I talk to my books. I say, listen to me, math book. You feel you're going to stress me out? You think you're going to stress me out today? You're not going to stress me out today. And yes, you might feel maybe a little bit crazy or a lot crazy. Point is, once you get the information in your mind, that's all that matters. Yeah, that's all that really and truly matters. So make sure you engage in the positive self-talk. Now, some things to avoid. Almost done with the video. Things to avoid. Cramming. We want to avoid cramming. What is cramming? Cramming is when you try to fit months, weeks, years of work. You try to learn it in a couple hours or a couple days. It is not possible for that to happen. Please avoid cramming. Some persons might be good at cramming, and that's only associated with good short-term memory. But when we're talking about learning, we want long-term memory. We want to feel that if 10 years, 25 years, 30 years down the road, you're going to still be able to remember the content. For the persons that are listening, if I tell you 10 multiplied by 10, immediately 20 might come to mind. Sorry, 10 multiplied by 10, 100, or 10 plus 10, 20. That will immediately come to mind. But if we give you a different equation, like 50 multiplied by 30 divided by 60, and find the square root of that, you might take a little longer to be able to get it correct, because your brain is not accustomed doing that. You've put the information in, but your brain is not accustomed generating that answer or finding the answer to that question. Yeah, so please ensure that you avoid cramming, because if you take time each day to learn a little bit, over time you'll have a more comprehensive understanding of the content that you're being engaged with. Yeah, you also want to avoid burnout. What's burnout? Burnout could be one of the effects of cramming, and it's basically where you are feeling extremely exhausted and you are no longer able to get any work done. Some people, they cram so much, or they get so burnout that days or before the exam they crash. And when I say crash, not like a vehicular accident, but in terms of their brain says, no more, I'm tired, I'm unable to do so, I need to restart. Your brain is like a computer in that regard. If you try opening too many tabs, opening too many windows, inserting too many external devices, it's going to start going slow. It's going to say, yo, this is crazy, this is taking long, and you're going to just be there hitting the laptop, quarreling with the laptop, and that's only going to make things worse. So avoid that burnout. Some persons, you also want to avoid overly loud music. Now, yes, some people may say that they can study with music, or they feel really comfortable doing work with music. Not a problem at all. However, please keep in mind, sometimes you may be reading a paragraph and then you find yourself starting to sing the lyrics to the song, and then you singing the song and say, where's this song real nice, boy? And then you know what you have to do? You have to go back and you have to read over the paragraph. Efficient studying is about not wasting time or not putting yourself in situations like that. You also want to try and not have your cell phone, your television, or anything that has a screen, or anything that you know can be distracting to yourself. Please avoid those things, and also avoid negative self-talk. You don't want to be telling yourself negative things or bad things while you are studying, because like I said, the self-fulfilling prophecy, if you tell yourself that you're not going to be able to do it, you are certainly not going to be able to do it. So with that being said, so let me just do this here. So with that being said, that's more or less the majority of the study tips that we were going to be discussing today. But where time management is concerned, time management is something that we all have to work on constantly, and the simple and the unpleasant truth is that you're probably busier more so now than you've ever been, considering COVID-19, probably adjusting to life, the new norms, so to speak, having to learn new platforms, and there may be some level of anxiety, some level of uncertainty. We don't know when things would go back to the way they were, but at the end of the day, we still have time. We're still in the land of the living, and once we're here, we have to do what we have to do in order for it to work out. So In terms of time management, some things that you can possibly do, you want to like make a diary. Take a week and plot out what you do every single day and be honest. If you watch 25 hours of TV for each week, write it down. This is particularly important because you have to figure out how exactly have I been spending my time? What have I been doing during the course of my engagement? What exactly have I been doing? So you want to write the things down. How much time you spend sleeping, how much time you spend eating. And yes, it might be a bit annoying to be recording every single thing that you are doing, but it can really, really be beneficial. So please try it out. Yeah. You also want to learn to say no when it comes to managing your time. And that will be a part of turning off your cell phone or turning off your beepers when somebody asks you to do something that you know is out of your schedule or you have other priorities. You may have to say no, and you don't have to say no. You could be diplomatic about it. You could do so politely but firmly, and don't allow yourself to feel guilty because you've said no. It's very important for you to know when to say no, something that I'm learning as well, and we all will be learning. So managing your time, saying no and knowing when to say yes, very, very important. You also want to have a time-based to-do list. What does that mean, to have a time-based to-do list? Sometimes you may have a to-do list and our list might look like go to the grocery, study, watch TV, and clean up the house. But those are just activities that studying, you could spend the entire day studying. You could spend probably not the whole day at the grocery, but you could spend a lot of time at the grocery. So having a time-based to-do list will allow you to set a period of time associated with doing or completing the task. So studying, 2 hours. Going to the grocery and the market, 1 hour. That way you get to fit in or slot in all the activities that you have. And there are times of your day where you could slot miscellaneous things or random things or just relaxation time. So you put to be determined, or this is free time, so you get to decide in that moment what you do for that hour. Yeah. You also want to let technology help you. So technology has helped people in terms of timing and managing their time in a lot of ways. For example, setting alarms that you may have. Some people to use personal scheduling softwares, using your calendars, your Google calendars, or address books that might be on your devices. Much of the organizing that experts actually say would help when you start streamlining your life, when you start putting things into a context where, you know what, this is what I have to accomplish, this is how it's going to work, and this is how I'm going to get there. Yeah. We also, 2 more things as it relates to time management. You want to multitask. Multitasking is very important. Even though technically some people say you can't multitask because you can't do multiple things at the same time. Yeah, it depends on how nitty-gritty you're talking, because technically I am talking and I am moving my head and I am holding the device and I am gesticulating. I am doing those things at the same time. But you have to know what you can multitask. Some people, you see that they're cooking and they're washing and they're cleaning the house at the same time. That way, so to speak, kill 2 birds or 3 birds with 1 stone. So once you know that you're able to go out the road and get everything that you need out the road. Unlike me, sometimes I make something we're all learning. Sometimes I go out the road and I forgot, I need to go back and check it. And last thing, when it relates to time management, don't be a perfectionist. There's nothing wrong with being ordinary. Perfectionism can add a lot of stress to your life, and so you want to set rational goals. You want to set feasible goals. You want to set goals that you know you actually can accomplish, things that are within your scope. You want to push yourself a little bit, so aim a little high, but don't set it too high that you feel discouraged. And you journaling, taking note of times, is going to possibly be very, very helpful in your journey with this. So with that being said, that brings me to the end of today's video on study tips and time management. I do hope you learn something, and please remember to like our social media pages. That's ChildLine TT on Twitter, ChildLine TT, ChildLine Trinidad, Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. And check out our website www.childlinett.org. We have a live web chat feature, and we also have our 24/7 toll-free helpline. It's available all day, all night, 365 days a year. The two phone numbers for the helpline, they're 800-4321 or 131. That's 800-4321. It's free. You could call at any time to talk about absolutely anything. So, that brings me to the end of the day in terms of this video. So thank you all very much for viewing. I hope it was beneficial for you all. Please share the information, turn on your post notifications, and keep checking out ChildLine social media pages for upcoming activities, upcoming seminars, and for information that we just have to share with everyone. Yeah, so feel free to reach out, and thanks for joining me this morning. It was a pleasure. Have a good day. Thanks.